I think like one of the amazing things about having children is that it forces you to focus because all of a sudden you go from having an afternoon or an entire weekend that you can self-design to having 90 minutes between 5 and 7:30 to do something, you know, and at first you're like, wow, this is really challenging, but it's a design question, and you either focus or you don't, you know, and it's for me it was a moment where it only made me more determined and more ambitious for my own work, but also because it's now connected, you know, to the lives of, in my case, I have two young sons, you know, two other people. So on a personal level, that's been amazing. I think what it opened up, I think for my creative work and for Art of the Rural, was that, you know, my wife Kelly and I, we had our sons in St. Louis, where I was living before we moved up here. And I remember taking my oldest son, Will, to daycare, you know, when he was maybe 2 years old. And I think I was thinking, I had some kind of big call that day or something about something Art of the World was doing. And I had this moment of realization where I thought, you know, Will isn't rural. Like I'm talking all about, you know, rural America and rural culture, and here I'm taking my son to daycare in St. Louis. And for about 30 seconds, that like kind of shook me on some level. But I think as I thought about it more, I really landed on one of the central ideas for a lot of my work and for Art of the Rural, which is this idea of rural-urban exchange and the idea of a rural diaspora. You know, we talk a lot about diasporas as moving in between continents or nations, but we have an internal one, you know, after the Great Migration, after the farm crisis, after a lot of these social and cultural upheavals that have been happening in the American landscape in the last 100 years. And you can go, I mean, you can go back further if you want to. And that was a real big turning point for me in terms of thinking about how we talk about what any rural work means in relationship to other stuff happening in rural or urban areas.